Hello and welcome to Stand Up with Pete Dominic, where I put out a new episode each and every weekday, and sometimes even more with the smartest, most thought-provoking people I can find. I prepare hard for every conversation, try to get the best out of it, learn as much as I can from all of these amazing guests that I get to talk to each and every day. Can't do it without you. It is Taint Week, day 3, and I have an excellent guest. The great Christian Finnegan joins me for a thought-provoking, interesting, and, as always, very funny conversation. Comedian Christian Finnegan is my exclusive guest today here on Taint Week, day 3. Tomorrow I'm scheduled to be talking to John Fugelsang, and it looks like that will be the last show of the year because I'm going to take Friday and Monday of next week probably off and be back with you Tuesday. But I have a great conversation with Christian coming up. Just wanted to wish you all a happy Taint Week. Hopefully you're not traveling. I have tried not to look at the news. It's actually been somewhat slow in the news to some extent, which is, if you can expect anything out of Taint Week, it's that. But the big story does seem to be how horrific travel has been for so many people. The airline, Southwest, apparently worst of all of them, but just a total cluster F at the airports, and feel terrible for anybody who's out there stranded, trying to get home, but always a really tough time to travel. And I give credit to those of you that tried to make it to your family or wherever you're going and back, and hopefully you did, but we're not going anywhere that we can't drive to. Probably this or any Taint Week, as a matter of fact. A very, very popular week to travel. But we'll be driving up to the Adirondacks tomorrow. And wish me luck on the ski trip. I think we've got it all together. Really looking forward to it. Couple of days off with the family. Skiing doesn't get any better than that for us. Hopefully I don't forget anything and we all have a great, great time. But now I want to give you a great time by sharing my interview, my conversation with Christian Finnegan. He is, of course, one of my all-time favorite people to talk to, a really good friend of mine, a hilarious comedian. You should get all of his albums, and you should subscribe to his newsletter, New Music for Olds. It's so, so good. So many listeners really, really love it. newmusicforolds.substack.com. If it's been a while since you've had a new favorite song, Christian can help with that. He launched this just under a year ago, and I think you're going to really like it if you haven't already subscribed. Go subscribe for free, and then hopefully you'll upgrade to a paid subscription. And if you're not paying for this podcast, I sure could use it. Standupwithpete.com is where you can go to find out more, or just sign up at patreon.com/Pete Dominic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, he's on Twitter at Christ Finnegan, if that's still a thing. I caught up with him yesterday afternoon, and it was great as always. Let's do it right now with Christian Finnegan on Taint Week, day 3. Well, how about it? Christian Finnegan on a hump day during Taint Week. Thank you for joining me. I was hoping you would, and I'm glad that you could. How are you?
Weird as my taint is covered in humps. It's a medical thing.
That is really... That sounds problematic, buddy. Are they like ripples? Are they small bumps? Are they? Wow, you should.
Yeah, it's probably something I should.
That is a rough out. Google search. Perineum bump humps on the perineum.
Yeah. No, it's a blessed opportunity for me to be here on such a prestigious week in the greater SUPD universe.
On Monday, I got a pitch from, and I wanted to get your take on this, from a publicist that I'd never talked to, and it was about a young woman who had left, 27 years old. She quit law school. Rather, she quit her job as a lawyer. She just graduated, passed the bar, got a job to do OnlyFans, where she's making 6 figures a month. And it was kind of like this empowerment story, but it's also OnlyFans. And I wonder what, and here's my one not interesting, but important take, which is like, there's going to be less and less good paying jobs. And if you can sit in your home, in the safety of your home, and not give out identifying details and make lots of money, 6 figures a month, just going on camera, doing anything, by the way. I mean, if you were whittling or painting, what do you think of that woman doing that, or of us doing those things, sexual things.
I mean, it's a sign of the times, I tell you. I mean, all the power to you, I suppose. I would say in the long run, probably that law degree would make you more money over a 20-year span than OnlyFans will over the next however many, how many years can you really do that and either not go crazy or not start to just not make as much money? Because I imagine that in the OnlyFans community or whatever, like when you're doing that sort of indie porn startup thing, I imagine probably people cycle through, they want new people. You know what I mean?
Subscribers, the people who are paying get sick of
the kind of people who are paying you money.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
Probably aren't sticking around for more than a year, I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know that, but it's just like, how many times can you tune in the same person's OnlyFans? I don't know.
It's crazy what I learned from her, though. What kind of people do? Like, guys send pictures of their dicks and pay her to give them a rating. So it's like there's this urge among some men to show their dick or send dick pics to anybody, unsolicited especially. And in this case, she's getting paid for it. I mean, it's
to rate them to sort of a what's a penis version of a sommelier, or I don't know, like some sort of
a rating system for
a dictique.
Yeah. I told her, I'd tell them I'll do it for $25. I mean,
yeah. Is there like a rating system? Is like, it's like, well, it's only got 3 identifiable veins. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I'll be a lot more creative about it. Yeah. Is that a curve? Anyway, I guess
the bottom line is like, how did you do?
I got a 6.
How did she rate your penis, Pete?
I got a 6. Mediocre.
Mediocre.
She said, not unexpected, I think were the exact words.
Mine, my review was enthusiastic, which I don't know what that means.
Your dick is enthusiastic. It's smiling.
Looked just a go-getter attitude.
Your dick is holding one thumb up. What?
Yeah.
No way. It has arms. So
there is a thumb involved.
Did anything exciting happen during Christmas? Moving on from that subject.
Our Christmas was pretty, we drove up to Massachusetts. It's always great to drive 4 hours to watch my dad play games on his phone all day. No, he kept that to a minimum. We just drove up for like one day and then came back last night. We drove up on Christmas morning and then visited with my dad. And then yesterday we had a little brunch with a few of my elderly relatives, and then saw a couple friends and then just came home. We were there like 36 hours total.
I'd love to be there for that performance. I'd like to watch your performance there with those folks, with old folks, relatives. See how you...
Why? Like, what do you say performance as if it's all phony and as if it can't be actual legitimate conversation, Pete? What are you trying to say about me?
I'm thinking about when you're
completely accurate, by the way. I'm just curious why you would say that.
I think everybody's performing with their family, extended family, and older folks.
I agree.
And especially comedians and people who think quickly, and because you're constantly wanting to say a thing, and then you hold yourself back from saying it, not because it's going to be offensive or they just won't get it or it won't be appropriate or something like that. I feel like it's a constant performance when you are
expected to be charming, like more charming than the average person, because like you're a comedian, be funny. And they serve them up like they're not savvy people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like comedically,
you'll
they're not like
this. There's a lot of you'll appreciate this, and then followed by something that you don't appreciate that much. Really?
You're saying your C-list kills with your uncles.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you don't really need to go to the, generally when you go to the really good stuff, that's the stuff they don't appreciate.
What folks often don't, I think, realize about maybe comedians or funny people as well is how curious they are and how deep they can go and how you can get pretty, very thoughtful and deep and dark. And I wanted to do that with you about your drinking. I wanted to do that today. I want to talk with you about you quit drinking, and I wanted to see how that's going and see if I thought maybe I needed to considerate, if I'm drinking too much. It's all relative, isn't it?
I'm probably like the worst person to give advice on this because...
No, you're not. You're the best person to give advice on a lot of things. Stop it.
That's very kind of you to say. It's been 5 months, and this is I've quit for 6 months before.
Oh,
but even then, I knew I was going to go back drinking. Like, this is the first time I've ever said, like, that's it. Like, even then, it was like, all right, I'm going to take 6 months off, and this is not a time off thing. This is theoretically. Now, that said, I can't sit here and promise that I'll never drink again. I don't have any like deep, dark, rock bottom stories to say like why I'm not drinking. So I don't feel like if I were to start drinking again, it would be some huge disappointment to myself or other people. I just know it's not a good idea at this point in my life with health issues and motivation issues and stuff like that. Like, if certain aspects of my life were to really kick into high gear and everything was going great, maybe I would feel at liberty again to go out with friends and have beers and stuff like that, which is the thing I would miss. Which is the thing I miss the most, is being able to just like have a bourbon and, a Makers and Diet, hanging out with friends and joking around. That's probably so if other circumstances in my life were to shift, then maybe I wouldn't feel like, sobriety was 100% necessary for me. But there's 100 reasons why it made sense for me. And I haven't, to be perfectly honest, on the upside, I have not found it terribly difficult.
Really?
Which is shocking, considering how often I drank. Like, I didn't really drink to excess a ton, but, it was a part of my life. Just you go to a set, get a drink, but on the downside, I will say that I do not feel any better whatsoever. Like, it has made no positive impact on my life, the quitting drinking.
You think you can? That's interesting that you
that's why I say I'm maybe the worst person to ask, because I wish I could say like, oh my God, I have so much energy and I wake up and I've lost all this weight and I feel great. None of that is happening.
First of all, I think that part of taping a conversation and sharing it with people is so that when other people hear it, they can be like, yeah, that's me.
Maybe.
I can relate.
I hope so. I mean,
or not.
Yeah. I think did I mention that I did go to one AA meeting once? Did I mention that?
You didn't, but was it this recent time that you quit drinking?
It was like literally the day after I quit. And the reason, the incident that made me sort of say like, all right, I should stop this, is that a lot of times when I go up to the woods by myself, that's when I drink a lot. And it's not so much that I'm like drowning my sorrows or anything like that. It's just that I'm home by myself in the woods. There's liquor in the house, whereas I never really kept liquor at home in the city, because you can just go to a bar. There's plenty of opportunities to drink, so there's no real reason to have a bottle of bourbon in your house. Like, and occasionally I would, but very rarely. But upstate, where the closest thing is a few miles away and whatnot, you would just have booze in the house. And so when I would be by myself, like I was by myself one night, and you kind of get that never ending glass going, where it's like it gets reasonably low and you just sort of refill it constantly.
Yeah.
And I guess I must have just had a lot to drink. And I woke up at like 6 a.m, 5:30 in the morning or something like that. And my back and my neck and my chest were really hurting. And then over the next 2 or 3 hours, it got worse and worse, to the extent that I was pretty convinced I was having a heart attack.
This is when again?
This was in July.
Got it.
And, given my medical history and things like that, that's obviously something that is not great. And I almost went to the hospital, but I eventually it started to dissipate. But I definitely wondered if I had maybe had a small heart attack. And so once I kind of did my 21st century self-diagnosis, where you go on 100 websites and Google symptoms and whatnot, I sort of came to the conclusion that I hadn't had a heart attack, but that what happens is a lot of times when you drink excessively, the blood vessels to your heart can kind of clinch up and, react negatively. And it's not a positive thing. Let's put it that way. It's not a heart attack, but it ain't good. And so I kind of took that as an excuse to say, like, you know what? All right, this is as good a reason as any to maybe make a change. And I decided to go to an AA meeting, even though I've always been very turned off by AA.
What turns you off about AA?
Well, first of all, the religious part of it.
Sure.
That a lot of it is really based in, and they'll say like, oh, it's just all they say is a higher power. Like it can be anything. It's like, no, it's when at least the AA meeting I went to, it was very clearly the Christian Bible God, it was not as vague as a lot of AA proponents make it seem.
I like that, the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. If I just replace God with just grant me, because I do that in my meditations. I'll say, let me be. It's like mantras, but I like that. But I've heard people discredit or criticize that. You can do that to anything, but what do you think just of that part? Like, allow me to accept the things I can't change.
It's funny. It's one of those things where just it's hard to argue the wisdom of that statement. It's a very good key to managing your life. But when you've just heard it referenced so many times, like it's hard for me not to roll my eyes at it because it just sounds like I'm reading somebody's something somebody crocheted into a pillow.
What's wrong with pillow mantras, pillow memes? You hate them.
So it's like, it's like the sort of cynical part of me is just like, right.
Like, I hear you with that for sure.
Especially I'm talking to a real philosopher here.
It's like Mike Lindell come up with that just to monetize it.
It's like something like the dumbest person says to sound smart.
So that's number one, the religious aspect of it. Give me another thing that you didn't really like about the meeting or meetings or the program.
Well,
I guess
it was the religious part of it was certainly the thing, because again, there are a lot of groups that are different, and there are some that are secular in nature. But this one I went to was very religious, and also the people that were there were probably only 10 to 12 people there, and like the guy who was leading the meeting, he was just saying things like, when I think of all the people I stole from and all the beatings I took, and and I'm just, thank God that I'm here today. And I was like, well, I don't have any of that.
Right.
Like, I didn't take any beatings. I didn't take any beatings.
That doesn't
insane.
Well, everybody's having a different journey, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like I'm not fucking Charles Bukowski. It's like I just
this guy went to hell and back. I just feel like I'm drinking a little too much. I'm losing my motivation.
Heavy and not getting shit done and not happy. So that just made me feel like out of place. And then there was one dude that was there. He was like a young kid, but he was just really aggressively came up to me afterwards. And I felt like I was talking to like a mid-level marketing person who was just trying to sell me on some, Amway type scam. It just, there is a salesman part of AA that I find distasteful. And this guy was really kind of trying to pitch himself to me as kind of like, I can tell you, I can show you the ropes. And I just, everything about it just felt kind of corny and full of shit. And again, this is my personal experience, and I'm sure it has to do with my hangups, in that I have a thing in me based on my childhood and whatever. Whereas I just assume that everyone is either a liar or mentally ill when they're talking to me. Like when they're aggressively trying to talk about something that means something to them, my immediate instinct is either you're insane or you're trying to sell me something.
Yeah. Part of that's probably part of it, I'm just guessing, is because I share that to some extent, is your experience in show business.
Yes, that is definitely part of it. That is definitely part of it. And so, it wasn't my intention to never go back, and I may still go. There are secular versions. There's non-religious versions, but I haven't been to any of those, and they're all on Zoom now. That's the other thing, is that's like I have no interest in going to a Zoom AA thing.
I would imagine a big part of it, and this is the last thing I'll say about it because I really don't know, but a big part of it is the connection with other human beings experiencing a similar thing or challenge. In this case, not drinking alcohol, no matter where it came into your life or how hard you're trying. Same could be said for, people going through any number of other experiences, a divorce, a job loss, bad things, and just general struggle things. The idea of having connection with people, where are you on needing that?
I always think I want it. That's been, and this is definitely a me thing. This is not an other people thing. Like it's my fault, not theirs. Is that I think I want like connection with people. Mm-hmm. And then I think I want connection to people. And then I'm around people and I was like, please don't connect with me. Like, I don't want to connect with you. And again, that is not, it's one of those things where when people say like, if everyone you meet is an asshole, then the asshole is probably you. It's like, if every single person I meet feels like a fraud or an insane person, then that's probably a me thing. That's probably not a them thing.
I've quietly been trying to recruit you for friendship for a couple of years now, and maybe this is enough, these talks, but I'm definitely ready to bring it to the next level this year with you. And
see, here's the thing. I've known you long enough that, of course, I think we are friends, and I would happily enjoy being bigger friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
The next level. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I want to hear what you're going to say. Because
you saying that, and immediately the sort of lizard brain part of me is like, no, stay away, weirdo, crazy. Like, that's just the way my brain works.
Sure, yeah,
and
I get that.
I've known you long enough to know that that's not the case. And I feel like we are friends and we have great conversations and all that.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, like, you are not the first person who I have been friendly with, but not unable to transition into a deeper friendship with. You're not the first person.
I think a lot of that for men is, what does that mean? What are we doing? What is there? And I think a lot of times what's required as a simple solution is having an activity so 100%. That you don't have to constantly be actually verbally communicating. So in this year, like in the spring, maybe earlier, I am going to bring my dog to where you live in the country, and we're going to go for a hike with our dogs.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, you're into that.
That's honestly what you should do.
Yeah.
You should bring your dog, and we should go up to my cabin for like a few days and do like a thing for sure. 100%.
Do you mind if I drink in front of you?
Sure, please. As long as you let me just smell your breath afterwards.
Right away, I was like, well, no, that's what I mean, to have to do a thing, because it can become uncomfortable or burdensome, or there's expectations, or it just becomes boring and annoying to be with someone for a long period of time unless there is kind of an activity. And for me, my main thing, some people like to play Dungeons and Dragons or cards or golf. Guys, I'm thinking about, but for me, like, my thing has been for the last year or two is going on long walks, or if people can't hike, or hikes in the woods or wherever.
It's funny. I did a new material show last week, and I wrote.
I love that you guys do that. I got to come do that at QED. It's a great
they're fun,
idea.
man.
Yeah.
And they give you sort of like the license / pressure to actually write and perform new material, as opposed to feeling like you're sabotaging a show when you do new material. But I wrote a bit about how men can't be friends unless there's something to do, and like, look at the lengths that Santa Claus will go to just to get some time to himself. But
we surrounded by so many, I guess, elves, and then the reindeer.
I should probably go give some gifts to some kids, and and Mrs. Claus is forward. She's like, yeah, you should probably go to
get
all
out
the
of here,
kids, like the entire world.
Like 25,000 a second. I read.
No, but I'm convinced that secret societies like the Illuminati and stuff like that are excuses for men to get together without their wives, but for guys who aren't good at sports.
Or are too out of shape to play anymore. It's a great point, and it's funny, but it's so true. And it's not, I guess you don't have to go to that secretive level. I mean, for the bit, for sure, but for like the Elks Club or the volunteer fire department, like to be a volunteer fireman, no offense, thanks for what you do. Let me just put that out there, because maybe one day someone's going to save me in a car crash, volunteer fireman. I mean, I think that's what they're they're most important for. But when they hang out together at the fire station, that's just camaraderie. That's just hanging out. And it doesn't have to be, exclusive to gender, I suppose. But I think it's interesting to talk about kind of a classic, traditional, especially straight guy, because maybe we're not as in touch. I think I am at this point. But the idea is you have to have some kind of activity.
It's got to be a thing. What are we doing? And I think of myself as not being like a guy in so many ways. But in that way, I am a very, very much a straight dude. That is just like, what are we doing? Like, what is the thing that we're doing?
Yeah, well,
because if not, then it's just weird that we're hanging out.
I'm super excited that you lit up at the idea of going for a hike, and I'm making
I even have a number of good ones that I know of.
Excellent. You're going to kill me in the woods, aren't you?
Yeah, 100%.
Probably. So I also wanted to
end up with Christian Finnegan from now on.
Hey, everybody. Listen, tough story. You're in my shed living with my family. Like, you took over my life.
I'm Black Swan your podcast. It's an old reference.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, Darren Aronofsky movie. Anyway,
end of the year is what I wanted to get to next.
What of the year?
End of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And we touched on this a little bit, I think, last week, but you're interested in, I think, shitting on lists and so on, but I love lists. I hate them. I have a very tangled relationship with lists. Like most guys, I have this weird desire to sort of list things and quantify them and rank them to put them into order in my brain. But then when I read other people's, I'm like, you're dumb. Yeah, no, that's fine. And I think that's probably pretty normal. You put together albums for new music for olds, which if you haven't subscribed, now is the time for the new year. I know a lot of people who really, really enjoy it and get a lot out of it, like I do. It's a great newsletter.
Yeah, I would say that my main marketing strategy for this newsletter is you repeatedly asking your listeners to join. That is pretty much the extent of my promotional activities, and I genuinely appreciate it.
No one does things as a favor for more than a minute. So if people subscribe to a thing, they're not doing it to make somebody else happy. They're doing it because they like it. It's a pretty anonymous thing. So they genuinely like it. I hear a lot about it, and I certainly learn and get a lot of tips from it. It's perfect for me, and I just love knowing that you're behind it. So whatever it is, new music for olds. Anyway, you made my favorite albums. We talked about it last week, but what else about this time of year, if anything? I mean, it's this time that I call Taint Week because it doesn't have a name, and I see everybody reacting to it every year. Like, what is this? Every year, people have a similar reaction. What is this week? And
Schrodinger's week.
Yeah, why is it that?
Well, yeah, because it's neither alive nor dead, and it's happening and yet meaningless at the same time. And
I like that. Schrodinger's week.
Yeah, there's just nothing. You feel dumb. It's not vacation, but it feels silly to actually accomplish anything either. To me, the only reason for this week is to sort of get your ducks in a row so that you can make January worthwhile. I
like that, and that's exactly what I was doing before I talked to you. What I'm going to do after I talk to you is just getting ducks in a row in many different ways. But it's also a week where a lot of people aren't working and being productive, and so they have the time off, and so they'll go somewhere. And we're doing that for the first time, and I don't remember when. We're taking a couple days skiing. But the reason you don't do that is because wherever you go is going to be peak, crowded, and expensive. And so it makes perfect sense to stay home and not go to a place when everybody has this time off and is doing the same thing. I always don't like that, but there's not.
We have gone, like, in the past, we went to Paris one year for Christmas, and we went to Mexico for 1 year. That was before we had our cabin, and it's before my wife opened QED. QED kind of prevents us from doing that kind of thing, just, because like QED is open again tomorrow. And so, that is what it is. But I mean, I love the idea of getting the F out of D this week, if you can. But yeah, in terms of someplace like a ski resort, it's going to be pretty damn packed.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You got to, buy ahead of time too now for skiing. You don't ski, so you won't care about this. No, but like the idea that you buy a ticket, like you want to buy your ticket, you want to choose to go skiing in the morning when you wake up and know the weather. Because maybe there's going to be all ice. Maybe it's going to be too cold. Maybe it's going to be rainy.
You're definitely putting a lot in the hands of the gods.
Exactly. Buying your tickets ahead of time, which is what we had to do if you don't have a season's pass. It's a real gamble, but it looks like it might be decent. And by decent, I mean covered.
Where are you going?
Covered in ice.
Huh?
I'll just say the Adirondacks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Up in Dominicville.
Yeah.
Up in very nice.
One of the most beautiful, underappreciated areas in all the world. I feel.
I have, and I think I've said this to you, is, when my wife and I went on our road trip in August, we went, we went to Niagara Falls, and we went to the Finger Lakes, and we went to Lake Placid. And I'm just agog at how gorgeous the Finger Lakes and the Adirondacks are. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. People don't know. They don't understand just how gorgeous, and I, again, not to constantly, and it's not just the nature. It's also the little towns are beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of great.
Skinny Atlas, Cazenovia, like all these just gorgeous little towns. And I, at least 5 times over the course of our week driving around up there, I was like, I could live here. I could live here.
Well,
of course it was August. I wouldn't want to be there in January.
You named the 2 most affluent towns on those lakes.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that makes sense.
Attract a lot of money from all over the place because they're that beautiful. But yeah, a lot of beautiful places in upstate New York. If you've never gone, you're missing out. Before I let you go,
and I'm sorry, my wife is sending me notes from the kitchen. She's in the kitchen, and she wanted me to mention all of the incredible history in the area. We went to like John Brown's house, and all sorts of where the suffragettes were.
Yep.
And there's so much, and I don't know why she felt compelled to just text me the word history. Tell her to run in here and
tell me more. Tell her to run in and take up the mic and tell us more about upstate New York.
Cambry, would you like to come in and get on the mic and talk about upstate New York? She says no, thank you. And yet she is still interested in bothering me while I'm on a podcast, but she has no desire to.
Her no, thank you. Tell her hurt my feelings.
Your no, thank you hurt Pete's feelings.
Would she have said no, thank you to Joe Rogan?
She said she doesn't want to be on camera. It's not, first of all, it's a podcast, so you won't be on camera. And she's embarrassed by the Iron Maiden sweater I got her for Christmas, which is basically the coolest fucking gift anyone could ever receive. But apparently she's embarrassed from it. That's great. Thanks. Makes me feel good. What? I have headphones on. What? She's also cooking. These are just a long list of excuses. She's not so busy that she can't backseat drive my podcast appearance. But
would she be here if Ted Alexandro asked her?
Would you be coming to the mic if Ted Alexandro asked you? Or I don't know.
I love Cambry. Okay, so I wanted to ask you and Cambry if she wants to weigh in on George Santos, Congressman George Santos, Republican from around your way.
Mm-hmm.
He represents the district probably right near yours. And
it's New York City, so it's actually a few districts away, but geographically it's not far from me.
And the man, it appears, has lied about all of the things that in the past, if you lied about any one of them, you'd get in trouble. We know a comedian, what's his name? Ron Azizi. He lied about being in a building on 9/11. It really damaged his career for a while, at least, if not permanently amongst some. We know politicians and other public people who lied about getting a degree from this school or working at a place. Some people, I guess, lie about being gay. Other people lie about apparently, being Jewish or being a religion or losing people in the Holocaust. He lied about all of those things, and I haven't even hit many of them, and yet he's still going to be sworn in as a congressman, no doubt, right?
I don't see the grounds upon which, unless the Republican leadership comes down and basically forces him out.
He's admitted to lying, by the way.
Yeah, he's admitted to lying, but in other things he said he just embellished. I don't know what they can do about it, but it's part of me is kind of, I love the idea of him still being in office, that like they can't just get rid of this guy, Well, first of all, they won't get rid of him because their margin is so slim. They need every vote they can get. And I'm sure that McCarthy and, his crew of dummies, their thinking is, well, at the very least, we have this guy basically under our thumb, and he's one vote that we don't have to worry about because he's in such dire straits that he'll just do whatever we tell him because we're not kicking him out. But, I mean, it tests that theory, as I think I've sort of said over and over and over again, that the big change that Trump made is that he sort of showed what happens when you conquer your moral gag reflex, like that there is no punishment for lying. And he's the one who kind of really put that to the test. I may have used this metaphor before or analogy before. You've seen Blazing Saddles?
I can't remember. Like, I don't know if I ever watched the full film. Now I'm going to get in trouble again with people for not watching.
It's a fine film, but at the end of the movie, they set a trap for the bad guys by basically creating a fake town where all the buildings are just like, plywood, and the posse comes in and they think they're raiding the town, but it's just literally like theater sets of buildings. And then somebody goes to throw something through a window and the whole thing falls over and they realize they're not actual buildings. They're just, two-dimensional pieces of wood. That's sort of how I feel like our institutions were. And everyone thought that, that there was going to be this huge punishment, this huge price to pay for being a liar, that if you got caught lying too much, that everybody fudges a little bit. But if you just went out and straight out lied, that there'd be some huge moral backlash from the public and from the press and from other politicians and from your party, elders. And Trump came in and basically showed that none of that was true, that none of that was real. That is like, no, you can just lie. You can just lie. And I remember him saying it very clearly. He said, the Republicans don't know how to win. I'll show them. And the answer was, you win by lying. You win by just completely distancing yourself from any sort of moral commitment to the truth. And then people didn't know how to react to it, and so they just went along with it.
Someone might try to say, well, yeah, all politicians lie, or Democrats do the same thing. And I would say, no, it's not true that all politicians lie like this so blatantly about such important things.
All politicians spin. It's different.
Or give half-truths, or partial truths, or do
lie
all
by
kinds
omission, or things like that.
There's a lot of but on so many factual levels, which are fairly black and white. Did you attend this school? Did you have this job? Are you gay?
Yeah.
This guy's questionable his sexuality. He lied about being gay.
Well, yeah, he didn't mention that he'd been married to a woman for like 7 years.
Which is possible.
It's totally possible.
Yes. Doesn't mean you're not wherever you are in the spectrum. It's just that he
why would you not mention that ever?
Right. Because you're trying to create persona. What you're talking about, what Trump did, though, is that's here to stay. So I think Trump is probably done. Maybe he's not. Everybody likes to hedge because we proclaimed his death before, his political death at least. But his behavior, his style, the rules that he changed are more likely here to stay for a long time. And I'm just not sure if they correspond or fall into the history of authoritarians' behavior, because a lot of this blatant behavior, this deplorable, awful, terrible behavior, the cruelty is the point idea, just being mean and being a dick and owning the libs, that seems to be pretty ingrained, at least for a while, in our culture here in America. And I don't know if it's spread around the world as specifically. I'm not sure.
It sounds weird to say, but the thing that will eventually change that or maybe diminish the power of lying is more just that it will stop being a trend. Like at a certain point, and I think the midterms showed this, that there is a slightly waning desire for that kind of thing in the center, certainly not on the right, but in the sort of those winnable, quote unquote, moderates.
I'd give it more than slightly, but I agree. Yeah. Like there's this idea of like a
threshold in that, especially when it's not Trump, who doesn't have that sort of secret sauce of being a celebrity and all those things, the Kerry Lakes, and that there is sort of there is a small percentage of people who are just like, all right, I'm sick of crazy. And I'm sick of clowns.
could I water it down to the idea that there's a certain percentage of Americans who or of human beings who live in a world where there are rules and you generally speaking follow them, and even more specifically, if there's a line to wait for tickets, there's always going to be people who are going to want to cut it, cheat it, do whatever they can. But most people are probably going to, quote, do the right thing and wait in line. I'm sure there's all kinds of philosophy about this and ideology about this, but I'm trying to specifically say what types of different people there are. There are the people who cheat and lie and, about everything. We all do to some extent, maybe about some little things. But then there are the vast majority of people who are like, you know what? I'm going to wait in line and I'm going to pay for this item.
Yes, I agree. And also it's just, I think people were, first of all, a lot of people were just shell shocked by 2016 that this could happen.
Yep.
And so they kind of assume that like, oh, okay, I guess the rules have completely changed now. And to a degree they have. But I think that the reason that people are willing to go along with just bald-faced liars is because at least if they won, do you know what I mean? That it's like, all right, well, I never thought of myself as being a bald-faced liar, but the people who are bald-faced lying believe in the things I believe, and they're hurting the people I want to hurt, so I'm going to go along with it. But if liars aren't winning anymore, well, then there's less of a reason to go along with it. Do you know what I mean? That it's like, and again, that's another, hopefully a lesson of the midterms is that, you don't need to shave off that many voters for the Republicans to be an essentially non-viable party in this country. Exactly. You don't have to convince everybody. You only have to convince 8% of the people that vote for Republicans to not vote for them, and they'll never win another major election.
Right, outside of gerrymandered districts and so on, where those people are concentrated into these weird places. But yeah, I completely agree and take your point. Yeah.
And so for those people who kind of went along with it, just kind of, I guess this is what it takes to win now. Well, if they're not even winning, if Trump isn't winning in 2020, and if his candidates aren't winning in 2022, well then maybe I would default back to honesty again. You know what I mean? Like just as something, let's try something different. Let's try not lying all the time.
I agree, and I think that we're coming around on that to some extent.
I hope that's true.
Yeah, I think it is in most places in a lot of ways. Although if you listen to the former Russian president, the Fourth Reich is going to be here. Medvedev apparently drank a lot of vodka and made predictions, including that Elon Musk would become president. Of course, that's illegal because he's wasn't born here. But hey, maybe he'll change the rules.
In his defense, he said that there's going to be civil war and there would be a new country, Texas. And Mexico and some southern states, and Elon Musk would become the president of that.
Oh, I misunderstood Medvedev.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Well, maybe he will then. Well, here at Taint Week, last question for you.
Yes, sir.
There's a couple days here where maybe some people are doing nothing. They're looking for your recommendations on anything music, film, TV, podcast. Give me one or two, if you will, of any of those things, an album, a song, a show, a film. Give me a couple that people should look into, as well as subscribe to New Music for Olds, where you can get more. But what do you got? It doesn't have to be music.
Well, a couple nights ago on Christmas night, Camry and I watched Glass Onion.
I keep scrolling right past.
It's like, well, did you see Knives Out?
No.
If you enjoy that kind of classic Agatha Christie, but like a farce version of Agatha Christie, a whodunit with a bunch of colorful characters and they all have a motive to kill the person and all that. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't feel heavy. It feels like eating a bag of,
probably a fun thing to watch with a family or with several people.
Yes.
Because you're all wondering who done it.
Exactly. And it's just, it's goofy and it's big. If you want something that's a little, I wouldn't say necessarily weightier, but a little more contemplative, The Banshees of Inisherin, which is my favorite movie of 2021, or 2022 rather, is streaming on HBO Max. It's beautiful, and it's the most depressing and hilarious it's the most Irish movie of all time. So if you find the Irish spirit at all appealing, then I would highly recommend
Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell. I saw them promoting it.
Yes, it's really good, and I think about it a lot.
There you go. Two great recommendations. Glass Onion, which is, and go ahead and go back to Knives Out, and there's a sequel. Even is this the third in this series?
No, it's the second, and it's not even really a sequel in the sense. It's the main, in the same way that like those, Miss Marple whatever the other Agatha Christie protagonist was. It's like the same detective, but a completely different cast of people. So it's not quite a sequel.
So that's a film and, well, two films.
Two films.
Yep.
Music, I mean, whatever. I could tell you 1,000 things, but there's not a lot of brand new stuff coming out right now. But the album I'm listening to right now is this album called Pre-Pleasure by a woman named Julia Jacklin, who's an Australian singer-songwriter.
How do you spell that?
Jacklin.
What was the name of the album?
Pre-Pleasure. That's an album that I discovered by reading other people's top 10 lists.
Good.
I went through, in the last episode of my newsletter, I went through other people's top 10 lists and found 5 songs that I really loved that I had missed over the course of 2022. And that is probably the one of them. That whole album is probably the one I'm listening to the most right now.
Julia Jacklin, Pre-Pleasure. Love it.
Yes.
Very nice. We've got some good recommendations. Anything else? Is there anything else that you would do? You probably don't even keep track of this. I'd love to know if I do this a lot. I'll go through a few of when I'm trying to find something to watch to burn the brain, to relax. I'll go through whatever I subscribe to, the Netflix and the HBOs. And then if I don't find anything, my go-to is YouTube, and I find anything and everything I want. I do I do look at a lot of like cabin building and cabins because I kind of fantasize about having a cabin someday. But what do you do YouTube? Do you go search
constantly.
it? Oh, you do? Like, what is the thing that you like to watch?
Well, I will look up live performances of bands that I'm into. Then, like new bands and or just songs.
There's good quality live performances on YouTube. They're well taped. And recorded.
Well, I mean, there's the whole range. There's everything from private cell phone videos to like live radio broadcasts of bands performing live. Like there's a Seattle radio station called KEXP, which does a series of like live band performances, and they film them, and they're really they sound great, and they're shot, and like NPR has their Tiny Desk concerts, which you've probably heard of.
Yep,
like things like that. Like I'll watch a lot of those, and I'll watch videos of people playing bass or guitar or drums along to songs I like. Like you'll see people who are just like, I'm going to play just some dude playing Led Zeppelin songs on drums, and like, I'll
cool.
listen to that.
All right. I think I would watch both those. Those are two good. Any other YouTube rabbit holes or things that your go-to YouTube search or videos?
I try to think if there's anything else that I've been listening to or watching on YouTube recently. Let me go to my history, Pete. You give me just a brief moment.
I will if you'll be honest.
I will be honest. Of course,
mostly honest.
Have no shame.
On your YouTube history, I will take it all.
Where do I find my YouTube history? I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that.
All. Oh, okay. I'll have something that's totally awesome and that everyone should watch if they haven't seen it. It's James Brown performing on Late Night with David Letterman in 1982, and he plays 3 songs. If you just Google James Brown Letterman 1982. It's just so great, especially like in the first song, you can tell he doesn't totally know if the band can keep up with him because he's,
he's playing with the Letterman band.
Letterman band. Yeah, his band.
Yeah.
And, I think he has a couple of his own horn players playing with them, but I don't think he fully appreciates how great of a band that was. But then as they play like the second song and then the third song, like you can just tell and he's doing all that crowd response back and forth with the audience, which is hilarious because there are a lot of them, the people in the audience, they're people who got tickets to see a late night television show, and not like Letterman was like a huge get at that point in terms of tickets. And so some people are really clapping along with it. And then there's other people who look like, this is not what I came to see.
Exactly.
I'm from Iowa. Yeah. And now some guy is yelling at me to stand up.
Right.
I don't want to get on up. I'm not curious to know that you're a sex machine. But it's a totally fabulous video. And if you haven't seen it, it's highly recommended.
Thank you for those recommendations. Thank you for joining me today and throughout the year. A rare Wednesday, hump day, taint week appearance. I hope you get that checked out, by the way. Your perineum.
Yes, I will. It makes it sitting as difficult.
Yeah, I bet. Send us a photo, if you will. Yeah. Just get a close-up shot of a golf ball.
Well, I'm going to make it my Twitter AVI.
Christian Finnegan, thank you very much. Happy holidays, happy New Year, and all the things.
Thanks, pal.
All right, there he goes, Christian Finnegan. New music for olds.substack.com. Go subscribe to that now, and that is all I've got for you today. Hopefully we'll get John Fugelsang on here tomorrow, and that'll be it. Take Friday off and Monday off, I think, and I am looking forward to hearing from you. standupwithpete@gmail.com anytime. Discord platform if you are a subscriber. If you're not, go sign up right now, and I will talk to you tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening today, and I hope that you are well here at the end of December and Taint Week. It's almost over, ladies and gentlemen. We're almost about to start 2023, and I promise you, I'm sure it's going to be absolutely amazing. I hope. I don't know what I'm talking about. Who could read the future? Stay in the present. Love you guys. Be the change you want to see. Be mindful, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know us right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We got to let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right. We got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.